Someone in your life has said something to you recently that felt completely normal on the surface, but left you feeling slightly off for the rest of the day. You couldn't explain why. Nothing they said was technically wrong, no accusation, no conflict, just a comment, an observation, a fact. And yet, somehow, after that conversation, you found yourself doubting someone you trusted, or defending yourself for something you hadn't even done yet. That feeling has a name. It is what happens the moment someone activates an old wound in you on purpose, without ever mentioning it directly. It was documented 5,000 years ago in the second and third verses of the Bhagavad Gita, before a single arrow had been fired. A young king walked up to his own teacher, not to ask for guidance, but to plant a seed of doubt so precisely that the teacher would never even realize it had been planted. After Dhritarashtra's opening question, Sanjaya begins to narrate, and the very first action he describes is not a battle move, it is a psychological one. Duryodhana looks at the Pandava army, and instead of consulting his strategists, he walks straight to his teacher, Dronacharya, and speaks. What he says next, 11 words in Sanskrit, is one of the most efficient manipulation tactics ever recorded, and you have almost certainly had it used on you. Duryodhana had every material advantage. More soldiers, more resources, the throne already in his hands. On paper, he had nothing to fear. And yet, the very first thing he does when he sees the opposing army is walk up to Dronacharya, not his generals, his teacher. Why? Because Duryodhana carried one unspoken fear that no amount of soldiers could fix. Dronacharya loved the Pandavas. He had trained them himself, and love, even old, professional love, cannot always be commanded to switch sides. That fear is never spoken aloud, not once, but it drives every single word Duryodhana says next. Notice exactly what Duryodhana does not do. He does not say, "Guruji, are you going to fight for me?" That question would be too direct, too exposing. It would put the doubt out in the open, where it could be answered and dismissed. Instead, he says something that sounds like a simple observation. "Behold, this mighty army of the Pandavas, arrayed by the son of Drupada, your own intelligent disciple." On the surface, that is just a fact, but underneath, it is doing three things at once. It reminds Drona of Drupada, the king who once humiliated him. It reminds Drona that his own student's army is now standing against him. And it delivers a compliment, your intelligent disciple, that makes the whole thing feel like praise instead of pressure. This is the exact architecture of manipulation. Never state the fear directly. Wrap it inside a fact, attach it to an old wound, and deliver it with just enough flattery that the other person cannot object, without looking paranoid. This is not an ancient tactic that disappeared with swords and chariots. It is running in your life right now, in smaller, quieter forms. The colleague who casually mentions your old mistake right before a performance review. The family member who brings up a past falling out the moment you start getting close to someone new. The friend who just happens to remind you of a time you were betrayed right when you were about to trust someone they don't like. None of them are lying. That is what makes it so effective. Every word is technically true. The manipulation is not in the fact, it is in the timing, and in which old wound they chose to touch. Duryodhana understood something most people never consciously learn. You don't have to threaten someone to control them. You only have to remind them of what already scares them at exactly the right moment. Watch what happens to Drona in this moment. He does not argue. He does not defend himself. He does not even respond in this verse, because the tactic isn't designed to start an argument. It's designed to plant a question in Drona's own mind that he will now have to answer for himself without Duryodhana ever having to raise it directly. That is the real genius and the real danger of this kind of manipulation. It doesn't attack you, it recruits your own mind to attack you, and then simply waits. Modern psychology has a name for this. It's called an insecurity trigger. Language specifically designed to activate someone's pre-existing doubt so precisely that they begin managing the manipulator's fear as if it were their own. Think about the last time you suddenly felt the need to explain yourself, prove your loyalty, or overcompensate, when nobody had actually accused you of anything. Now ask yourself with complete honesty, what was the sentence right before that feeling appeared? What old fear did it touch? That is the exact moment someone, consciously or not, did to you what Duryodhana did to Drona. They found the wound you were already carrying, and they pressed it gently, with a smile. Here is what makes this so hard to spot. The person doing it doesn't always know they're doing it either. Duryodhana's insecurity was so total that this tactic came to him instinctively, not as a plan, but as a survival reflex. Here is the pattern worth remembering. People who are secure in their position ask direct questions. People who are insecure ask indirect ones, disguised as facts, disguised as compliments, disguised as concern. Duryodhana never once said, "I am afraid you will betray me." If he had, Drona could have answered him honestly, and the fear would have dissolved in a single sentence. Instead, the fear stayed hidden, and because it stayed hidden, it never actually got resolved. It just got transferred from Duryodhana's mind into Drona's. That is what unspoken insecurity does. It doesn't disappear when you hide it. It just goes looking for someone else's mind to live in. Drona never chose to doubt himself in this moment. Duryodhana chose it for him and handed it to him wrapped in a compliment. This is the part most people miss about manipulation. It doesn't always feel like an attack. Sometimes it feels like being seen, being flattered, being spoken to with respect, while your sense of self is quietly being rearranged underneath the surface. The real skill is not learning to spot obvious hostility. Almost everyone can do that. The real skill is learning to notice when a compliment, a fact, or a casual comment leaves you feeling smaller, more defensive, or more obligated than you were 60 seconds earlier. The Gita doesn't give Drona a way out in this verse. He absorbs the hit silently, and it will shape his choices for the rest of the war. But it gives you something Drona didn't have, the ability to see the tactic before it lands. The antidote to an insecurity trigger is not defensiveness. It's awareness of your own wounds before someone else finds them for you. If you already know what your own old wounds are, the mistake you're most ashamed of, the loyalty you're most afraid of losing, the comparison that stings the most, then when someone touches it, on purpose or not, you recognize the sensation immediately instead of mistaking it for truth. Psychologists call this affect labeling, the simple act of naming an emotional trigger the moment you feel it activate. Naming it reduces its power over your next decision almost instantly. So how do you practice this in a real moment? Not philosophically, practically. The next time a conversation leaves you suddenly needing to prove, defend, or explain yourself, stop before you respond. Ask 3 questions. 1. Is this actually a new accusation or an old fear of mine being touched? 2. What does this person actually need or want from me right now? 3. Would I feel this way if I hadn't already been carrying this doubt before they spoke? This is the Drona practice. Not to stop trusting people, not to become suspicious of every compliment, but to separate what was actually said from what your own old wound added to it. Every time someone's words leave you suddenly defensive, suddenly small, suddenly needing to prove something, that reaction is not proof they were right about you. It's a map showing you exactly where your own unresolved wound is standing. Duryodhana's tactic worked on Drona, not because Drona was weak, but because Drona was carrying an old, unexamined tension about his place between two families he loved. Duryodhana simply found the door that was already unlocked. You have doors like that too. Everyone does. The goal isn't to weld them shut, it's to know exactly where they are, so no one else can open them without your permission. 3 things to carry into your next interaction. 1. Name it. The moment a conversation leaves you feeling suddenly smaller or more defensive than the words alone justify, name the old wound underneath it, even just to yourself. 2. Time it. Notice when people bring up your past, your loyalty, or your mistakes. Manipulation almost always has timing. It shows up right before you are about to do something the other person didn't want. 3. Own it. The fastest way to remove a wound's power is to stop hiding it. What Duryodhana hid festered into a war. What you name out loud, to yourself or to someone you trust, loses its grip almost immediately. Duryodhana said 11 words. He never raised his voice. He never made a threat. And by the time he finished speaking, he had already changed the outcome of a war that hadn't started yet. This is the part of the Gita most people skip past on their way to the famous verses. But it may be the most practically useful psychology in the entire text, because you will face this exact tactic in some form this week. In the next verses, Duryodhana doesn't stop at Drona. He starts naming names, warrior after warrior, listing every threat on the battlefield one by one. And what that reveals about the difference between confidence and control will change how you see every confident person you've ever met.